Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream legal show. I'm Judy the YouTube Lawyer here, and I will turn off the nice music. I think it's called Haydn's Trumpet Concerto. Thank you guys for being here on a sort of last-minute live stream show. I figured I'd ride the Squid Game craze before it totally dies down. I'm a little bit late to the party, but while watching this show, I just constantly kept thinking about legal issues because wherever you go, legal issues abound. So let's talk about Squid Game. I'm not sure how many of you guys out there have watched it all, or maybe you've only watched a little bit of it, but it really became an international hit. So let me unbutton this a little bit. If you guys didn't watch the show, the reason I'm wearing this is because this is sort of similar to the outfit worn by the guards in the show, although they also had a black covering completely over their face and either had something like a triangle or a square or a circle over the black part over their face. So anyway, I thought it'd be funny to wear this since I happened to find this at a consignment sale and it sort of fits. So it'll be useful during the winter too. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Okay, so Squid Game, quick summary from what I've seen, and I have to admit I haven't seen 100% of the whole entire series, but it's a show from Korea regarding a bunch of people that are just down and out. They are all in debt and having financial problems and in financial misery. So they all get recruited to take part in the Squid Game. So warning, there are going to be spoilers here. So if you haven't watched a show and you don't want to ruin your enjoyment of it, then please don't watch the rest of my live stream until after you've watched it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys all for being here. Yeah. 안녕하세요. Right. Not that I really know how to say much in Korean. So, so these people that are all in dire financial straits decided to voluntarily take part in these games. And I would like to also give a shout out to my YouTuber friend, Devin Chin, who has his own YouTube channel. He said that it was okay for me to show bits of his reaction videos to Squid Game. Actually, one of his reaction videos got over maybe 4,000 views already. So it really took off. So I thought, well, why don't I do some sort of Squid Game legal type of show, since this is primarily a legal channel, but we can talk about so many other issues here. So in this reaction video, Devin is reacting to the very first episode, which kind of lays the scene, obviously, for the rest of the show. It introduces you to the main character, who is this over-the-hill man named Gi-hun. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But he's kind of like a loser with a gambling problem, and he lives with his elderly mother, and you see him sitting there on the floor like a poor person, just eating some food and needing some money. And then he takes his mother's, I guess it's like a debit card or a credit card, you know, without her knowledge, so that he can go gambling some more at the horse tracks. So let's take a look at Devin's funny reaction video. And I really do have to thank him because, you know, I feel like I'm sort of out of touch with popular culture at times because I'm so busy working on behalf of my clients that sometimes I just have to focus and I'm not paying attention to what's popular and what everybody's crazy about. But because of his channel, I found out about the Squid Game. And it's kind of funny because he's a Canadian of also, like myself, he is Hakka Chinese, and also he's Jamaican, but he's in Canada. So I learned about this Korean show from him. And so what happens in the show is that the guy is just kind of like this loser, and he just has financial problems galore. He has like he just constantly has to go to the horse tracks, and he's constantly betting. So he meets this guy at the subway station. And I hope you guys can still hear me. So please let me know if you can still hear me. Okay. And so this guy is,
right over there.
you know, hanging out in the subway. Oops, there goes an ad. Why are there always ads? Okay, hopefully we can skip the ad. So once he's at the subway station, then he ends up Oh, okay. Please let me know if you can still hear me. Sometimes the volume goes off when I'm playing these videos.
Yes,
Okay, let's pause it right there.
That's true.
Okay, so that's like a very important scene there. Okay, from a legal perspective, what happens? Okay, so first he meets the mysterious guy at the subway station. I think this is after he had dinner with his daughter. And again, the scene with the daughter shows what a loser he is, because the daughter is celebrating her birthday. He and the daughter's mom are divorced, and the mother remarried, I guess, maybe a richer man. So the girl was saying that she got to go eat at a steakhouse. Oh, I'm glad you guys can hear me. She got to go eat at a steakhouse with her mom and her stepfather. Meanwhile, Gi-hung has to take his daughter to this like street stall eating some really cheap, I think it's some sort of noodle, right? I mean, I'm not Korean, so I don't know my Korean food, but from what I read, it looks like it's like a really cheap street dish that's made with like boiled noodles and spices or whatever, some condiments. And ultimately, I don't understand this part, so maybe you guys can explain it to me. He ends up giving her a gun in a box as the gift. I mean, that makes no sense. I think it's like a toy gun or something, but I don't really understand why, unless it was like a mistake to show what a doofus he is, that he mistakenly got her a box that had a gun in it. So anyway, it just shows his loser life, because that's all he can do for his daughter on her birthday. And so he's in the subway and he meets up with the creepy guy in a business suit, who then says, let's play some games. And, the punishment if you lose this game is that I get to slap you in the face or something. And then ultimately, he does win the money from the guy and gets all excited. So the guy gives him that business card. Oh, okay. So the present was a toy gun. Okay, I thought maybe that was like a mistake, like he had mistakenly like put a gun. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand Korean. I didn't watch 100% of everything. So thank you for that explanation about the present to the daughter, Fat Cat Productions. Thanks for being here. Okay, so first legal issue is he agrees to let the guy in the business suit slap him if he loses this weird game where they're like throwing envelopes on the ground. Like one is a blue envelope, one is a red envelope. I don't really understand that either, but that was a game. And so he agreed to play, knowing that the punishment would be that he would get slapped in the face. So there, Gi-hung is assuming the risk of the game, because he is actually knowing what could potentially happen to him, and he agrees to it and voluntarily plays the game with the guy. So that part is okay. What I have a trouble with is later on, as you see here, Gi-hung ends up getting enticed by this business card that the mystery man gave him. And so he calls the number, and there's some message saying, do you want to play in this game? State your name and your birth date or whatever. And then you see him standing on the street at night, and there's a mysterious van that pulls up, and he voluntarily gets into the van. But next thing you know, he's being gassed. And then he wakes up in this facility here that looks like some sort of big gymnasium with a bunch of metal bunk beds with all the other hundreds of other players that have also been brought over to this island, I guess, this hidden place to play the game. So, okay. Thank you, Life in Plastic. That's very nice of you. I didn't even know people could actually, buy me stickers or stuff, but thank you so much. It'll help defray the cost of this great raincoat, right? Rain jacket. Thank you guys for being here. So this is a total legal problem here. Like, when people agree to take part in games or contests, TV shows, reality shows, you can bet they do have to sign a release and a waiver. There's going to be tons of legalese, contracts that they have to sign after hopefully thoroughly reviewing them. So in this situation, Gi-hung did agree that he wanted to take part in a game, but from what little I saw of the show, it doesn't look like he had any sort of informed consent. He was not given any sort of contract at that point. before he was taken away in the van and gassed. And I'm sure he did not know what he was going to get into, that he could be end up being executed as part of this game. He just thought that, hey, maybe this will solve my problems because I could win money by being part of this. And I'm sure he also did not consent to being gassed, did not consent to being taken away from his city into this like strange facility where he wouldn't be able to escape on his own. So yeah, signs a huge document. Yeah. Well, I know later on they do show a scene where the players do sign something that looks like a contract, but since I can't read Korean, I have no idea what they signed. And I'm sure, you know, in the show, they didn't actually do any sort of slow panning of the contract so that people who are legally minded can see what kind of waiver they signed. But as you can see later on in the show, everybody's like totally shocked and appalled and can't believe it when people start getting shot during the red light, green light game. So, so that's why you know that these people did not give their informed consent. They did not assume the risk of participating in this wacky game, and they just did not expect that they could lose their lives while playing this game. They probably all just thought, oh, okay, you know, it's like a reality show, and then maybe we can win some money, and the worst thing that could happen would be that we would be eliminated from the game and then just taken back to our homes. So so that's why it's all screwed up at the beginning from a legal standpoint. But of course, you know, I know this is just a drama for the entertainment of people and stuff, but it's still kind of funny to think about how, you know, if this were a reality show, well, first of all, people would not be executed as part of a reality show. But even before the person sets foot on the premises of the game, they are definitely going to be given a humongously long legally binding contract where they are going to be told, you know, potentially what could happen to them, you know, how or when or if they can quit, and you know, basically waive any sort of claims against the producers or the people involved with the whole entire setup. But on the other hand, here's another thing that some people might not realize is that depending on the laws of your state, not every waiver of liability is going to be 100% airtight. Let me stop sharing the screen for now. Just get back on here. I might have to take off this hood because it's getting a little hot. So when let's say you go to like a trampoline park, or you take part in one of those like Ninja Warrior athletic events, or any sort of contest, games that might take place at any sort of like state fair or festival or whatever, typically they are going to have you sign, or at least electronically sign, some sort of waiver that says, I understand that the risks of taking part in this could include, you know, serious physical injury or even death, or, you know, I affirm that I do not have any health conditions, I do not have any whatever, you know, I am not pregnant, you know, basically writing away your life, right? But on the other hand, sometimes those types of contracts can be deemed to be void against public policy, like totally flat out saying, like, I agree, you know, you guys can get away with anything. I cannot sue you. I waive any and all legal claims, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if that kind of contract, if a court decides that is unconscionable and void against public policy, then it might not totally hold up in court. So keep that in mind next time you have to sign any sort of waiver form, because it seems like these days, everywhere you go, there are going to be waiver forms. And most of the time, the owners of the businesses or whoever's running the competition or the race or whatever it is, they just sort of think that most people are a little, you know, too lazy to really read every single word. Like, let's say you bring your kid to a bounce house or a trampoline park or, you know, go-karting facility or whatever. You know, most of the time people don't really read that. But of course, not reading the contract fully and not understanding it fully is, usually not going to be any excuse for you getting out of it. But most of the time, people just go ahead and sign because they want their kid to take part in the thing, or they think that it's going to be fun to be with their friends and do this, whatever, like escape room or corn maze or, a warrior competition. So there are all sorts of situations where you might be asked to sign a waiver. But then on the other hand, if there is gross negligence on the part of the organizers, something that you did not, quote, assume the risk of, if that happens, then potentially you could still have a legal claim against the organizers of the event or the competition or whatever activity it is that you're doing. Depends on the risk. Yeah. So, producer survivor. Yeah, I don't know what that could be. I don't think they would keep it publicly available on the website. So, yeah, thank you, Jared. Please check out his channel. Yeah. The terms of service for most apps would take quite a while to read. I'm sure it's saying, yeah, definitely. And then, for example, you go to an ice skating rink, because I go to skating rinks a lot. And most of them do have some sort of like permanent sign full of text that's like stuck near the entrance where you would pay for admission, just saying, I understand ice skating is an inherently dangerous and physically, what do you call it? Physically taxing activity. And, I take the risks of falls that, blah, blah, the premises, the owners are not going to be liable for any injuries suffered and stuff. I mean, of course, if somebody deliberately pushes you while you're at the rink, or somebody is grossly negligent, or, an employee comes out and does something that is deliberate or, quote, grossly negligent against you, or who causes the injury to happen through gross negligence, then potentially you could still have a claim. But the reason they have these waivers, obviously, is to just go ahead and put people on notice so that it weakens any sort of claim later on when people get injured, or who knows, even risk potentially dying if you hit your head when you fall on the skating rink. So everywhere you go, there are going to be risks involved. But the question is whether you voluntarily assume the risk, and it doesn't necessarily have to be put to you in writing. It can be inherent in taking part in a sport, or just knowing, like a normal, reasonable person would know what the risks are here. Yeah. So, let's switch back over to Devin's funny reaction here. And so this is a really interesting show. I mean, once I started watching more and more, then I started thinking, well, I do want to watch more of the show and stuff. So right now, I would say I've probably watched like maybe 3/4 of the episodes here and there. And so what happens next? So at this point, Gi-hun still does not know what dangers await him. He does realize that he's been gassed or drugged or something and taken to this place.
Oh my God.
Okay, he wakes up. He's totally shocked. He meets the old man, Ilhan or Ilham, and the old man becomes sort of like his friend. Then it turns out some of the players know each other. They have like criminal backgrounds. It looks like maybe he was, I don't know, he was the John or something, and who knows? I mean, so this is where the players start realizing, okay, something's wrong here, because the guy is beating up and kicking the poor woman, and the guards or the people involved with the game are not stopping anything. So this is where the people actually get the contract. It says games may be terminated if the majority agrees. So that's interesting that it's not until all this stuff has already happened that's totally illegal, of course, in real life. After all this stuff happens, then finally the players get this contract, and it does say that it can be terminated if everybody agrees. So it's not until after the red light, green light game when people start realizing, oh my God, we're going to get shot at, or, oh, they killed these people, we're going to die. Then people start freaking out and trying to get away, and more of them get shot. So it's just absolutely gory and creepy and sad, even more disturbing because of that, like that giant little girl doll that is telling them whether to go or stop. So the interesting thing is that the players who are still alive after that game, they do decide that, okay, let's stop it. This is crazy. We didn't sign up for this. I want to get out of here and I want to go home. So they do go home. And I think this is done in a very quick montage, maybe. If you guys actually watched it, let me know. But from what I heard and saw, what little I saw, looks like the people realized that their lives were pretty lousy anyway, and they had tons of financial problems, and their families are all downtrodden and in misery. So they decide, for all their individual reasons, to go back voluntarily to play the game. So this is where, again, things change from a legal perspective, because after they've already found out that these games really are life or death, and that people are going to be just, brutally executed or just killed every which way, and they voluntarily go back, then that's where you do have that assumption of the risk issue now, because they do have full knowledge of the risks of continuing to be part of this game. So the interesting thing is that much later on, okay, so spoiler alert again, but I'm sure you guys all already know what happened. So the interesting thing is that towards the very end, when you find out about the old man character, Ilhan, you find out that he was actually behind the games. And I guess he was a very rich person who just needed a way to entertain himself. I mean, isn't that pretty brutal? I mean, that's just like a really weird plot twist. I mean, while watching this stuff, I didn't think that, the old man is in on it and he's behind it or whatever. But then later on, you kind of put two and two together and realize, okay, now it sort of makes sense, because, he got spared in these games and stuff. And, in that scene where it looks like he wet his pants, then later on you see him lying down with a partially empty bottle of water. So perhaps he just deliberately put water on his pants to make it look like he soiled himself to see if Gi-hun was going to help him. So anyway, fast forward towards almost the very end of this whole entire series, where the magical legal words are said by Ilhan, where he says, well, nobody was forced to play in these games. Everybody came back. It was their own will to come back and keep playing the game. So there, that's already a legally relevant statement, because of course, nobody told these people they had to go back into the game. At the very beginning, clearly there was a lot of illegality there, but later on, as all these horrible and perverse things happened to the people, well, a lot of them repeatedly kept thinking about how miserable their lives were and how much debt they had, all their financial problems. So they still wanted to play in these games. Yeah. So let's see here. So getting back. Yeah, this is the very awful, disturbing scene where blood is splattering on people, and people are running and being executed and stuff. So I mean, it's just so gory. I don't even really want to watch all of this again.
Why is he grabbing his leg?
And I don't know what's up with that scene there. Why would that guy be grabbing onto his leg? It's not like Gi-hun could help drag him across to the finish line or something. But I mean, that's just really disturbing and sad also. Yeah. So definitely this is not a kids show. And it seems like, people are getting concerned that children are watching this and stuff. Yeah. This is totally disturbing. I don't think anybody under the age of, say, 16 or 17 should be watching this show, by the way, but that's just my commentary. Yeah. So Franco has a question here. What type of lawyer would make those contracts? I'm guessing transactional corporate type. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, because, there are definitely, standard types of waivers and stuff. And so any sort of, transactional attorney that does, say, business law could probably take care of it. I deal with contracts all the time, although they are not necessarily waivers of liability, but contracts such as separation agreements or severance agreements or non-compete agreements. Yeah, so you definitely have to be very careful with the wording as well as punctuation, any words that could be construed as vague or ambiguous. So, so that's the problem that I see when a lot of lay people try to write up their own contracts, is that they put in a bunch of wishy-washy verbiage that is not specific enough, or could have, some sort of effects that were not actually intended at the time. So definitely, that's another caveat here. If you ever have to sign a contract or you need to draft a contract, then definitely hire an attorney who specializes in that area of law to do it for you. Don't try to just find something off the internet or copy something that you found from some other place. Yeah, because I've seen that happen with a lot of people also. Is there such a thing as a contract where the person risks death or waives liability for death? Isn't that done in well, yeah, definitely. I mean, because I see that all the time. Yeah, any sort of thing could cause you to die. Like I was mentioning figure skating or ice skating rinks. Yeah, I mean, you normally don't expect to die at the ice skating rink, but certainly it could potentially happen. Like if somebody just happens to like step right on the ice, and then whoops, down you go and you smack your head and die, just like with that actress, Natasha Richardson, right? Like she's slipped at the ski slope and hit her head and seemed to be okay for quite a while, but then she died, I think, within a day from the head injury. So, so definitely, I'm pretty sure a lot of these waivers will actually say death. The risk of death, just like if you're about to have surgery, I'm sure they would definitely include, I understand that there is potential risk of death or, like long-term effects, blah, 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 definitely. Because no matter what you do, I mean, unless you're going to like hide in your house in a protective bubble, there is always that risk of death, right? So, okay, sorry to be such a downer here, but we're talking about Squid Game here. Yeah. So in terms of case law and North Carolina law, I did some quick legal research today about assumption of the risk and waivers and liabilities. And the vast majority of cases that first came up on the screen when I did a search for North Carolina cases, they all had to do with sports or sporting events, mostly baseball, but also a case about hockey or somebody getting injured playing soccer. So, that's just the risk that you take if you want to participate in sports, or even if you want to be a spectator in a sport. So one of the most recent cases that I found just came out less than a year ago in North Carolina, and it was a 11-year-old girl who had gone to some sort of picnic event at the Durham Bulls Park. It was being held by her father's employer. So the company decided to have this kind of fun get together at the baseball park. And it included food and stuff. So they weren't really there just to watch the baseball game, but also just to have a picnic that evening. So the girl was sitting at a picnic table that was kind of further off to the side near some sort of like low wall, just talking to her mother and eating at the picnic table, sort of half watching. They had a view of the baseball field. Okay, sorry again, I'm not a baseball person, so if I get these terms wrong, don't lynch me. But so what happened was that a foul ball like came over and smacked her in the face and hit her in the jaw so hard that it broke multiple bones in her jaw area and dislocated multiple teeth. So she, of course, had to be ambulanced away to the emergency room. She had to have a bunch of surgery. I'm not sure what kind of ongoing problems she had, but it was all because her parents decided to go to this company fun social outing at the baseball park. So ultimately, the Court of Appeals ruled against the girl and her case and threw it out, saying that, well, you assumed the risk. There you were at the baseball game. You knew that there could potentially be, balls flying towards you. You were in view of the baseball game. And also, apparently, there is some extra case law that protects people running baseball games. It's called the baseball assumption or the baseball rule, which is interesting because, I never had to learn this for law school, and, personal injury isn't really my area of practice anymore. But it says under the baseball rule, baseball field operators are held to have discharged their full duty to spectators in safeguarding them from the danger of being struck by thrown or batted balls by providing adequately screened seats for patrons who desire them and leaving the patrons to their choice between such screened seats and those unscreened. Under the baseball rule, the duty of baseball field operators to safeguard spectators from dangers of being struck by thrown or batted balls is discharged, even when there are not enough screened seats to meet the demand for them. So this case, which just came out in December of 2020, is called William Mills as guardian ad litem for Angelina de Blasio, plaintiff versus the Durham Bulls Baseball Club, Inc. So it's a Court of Appeals North Carolina case. And I'm sure there are tons and tons of other cases out there, where unfortunately, most likely the injured person was not able to prevail because it was deemed that they had voluntarily assumed the risk being a participant or being a spectator at a sporting event. So let's see. Oh, okay. Advanced directives. Yeah. You definitely, most people should have advanced directives, right? Especially if you're going into surgery or going to take part in some sort of reality show or a game like this. Yeah. Voluntary assumption of risk. Yeah. Okay. So it's been just a little bit over half an hour. I think I've pretty much said what I would like to say about the Squid Game. It is a very interesting, compelling, somewhat entertaining show that makes you think about, how does this show from Korea encapsulate the social interactions between the rich and the poor and, economic inequality in our world. So it really does make you think. The acting is very good. People are laughing about the VIPs, saying that they just found some random white actors that can act, and it was the worst acting ever. But anyway, I think it was part of the shtick also, the kind of feeling that the producers of the show wanted to give off. Yeah. So I thank you all for being here tonight. Hope you guys continue to enjoy watching the Squid Game if you haven't watched it all already. And I'll see you at the next live stream show next week. Take care.